name is Amy Marie George. I'm a Tsleil Waututh elder. It took me many years to become a proud native Tsleil Waututh woman. When I was 6 years old, I was taken from my family and put in residential school, where in the schools I was physical, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and sexually abused. When I left that school, I had no idea who I was. You're supposed to Christianize and civilize the natives, kill the Indian and save the man. That was the Canadian government's ruling on the schools. They contracted the churches and said, punish them for every little misdemeanor that they do. And they strictly went by that. I was starved and strapped. I asked, when I was in a treatment center, I came out and became a drug addict and an alcoholic. And I asked them how the day went to jail, and their jail was much nicer than what I lived through when I was 6 years old, until I was 14. By the time I got home, my parents didn't really know me. I did something for my mom, and she said in amazement to my father, she knows that. She knows how to do that. That was my Christianizing and civilizing. I think the government, the Canadian government and the U.S. government, I recognize myself as a citizen of Turtle Island. This is our continent. We are the First Nations people. And I think that the Canadian government and the American government brought from the European countries when they came here, they brought the same dysfunctional government here and set it up. It will never work. It didn't work back then. It doesn't work now, and it will never work. They make lots of mistakes. For one thing, they said there are people between us and the land. We better kill them all. And that's why the residential schools were made. So the government, to me, is not working on my behalf. It's not working on humans' behalf. It doesn't work on behalf of the fish. It doesn't work on behalf of the animals. It doesn't work on behalf of the trees. It has no consideration for life. Both governments, because there were residential schools set up in the U.S. too. That government will never work because there's always somebody way down and somebody way up looking down at the rest of us. And we're not, most human beings aren't happy with that. When we had meetings, we'd sit in a circle so that when the native people, we sat in a circle and there's no one up above and no one below, because we're all sitting equal. We're all born with gifts, and we recognize one another's gift. And that's how our government was run. Not only that, we're a matriarchal society. We the women, yeah, we the women. We had a say in the spiritual, political, education. We're the ones who spoke first to our children and spoke in our language. My dialect of Tsleil Waututh is gone forever. There's not one person who knows the dialect of Halkamelam on my reserve. That's just one of my losses. I lost who I was. It took me a lot of healing and crying and screaming and to find out who I am again. I don't know my language. I've never heard it. Right now, we are called the Tsleil Waututh, which is people of the inlet. About 3 times, at least 3-4 times a week, we take food from the inlet My dad always had a bucket and a pot on the beach, and he'd go down and he'd take the water, build a fire, and put the water by the fire. And then he'd walk out on the mud flats and get crabs, and he'd bring clams and put them around the fire. And we'd be always happy to go with him. And we'd just sit there, and when the clams open up, we'd eat them, and when the crabs were boiled, we'd eat them. And he cooked them in salt water, and they were so good. Now it's all polluted because of the oil refineries. We had it down back in the 50s. These people from Texas, multi-billionaires, they make almost $1 million with each ship that comes in and out of my inlet. They want to dig 50 feet deep into my inlet. And it's not if they have a spill, it's when they have a spill. When they have a spill, it's going to kill everything, including ourselves. On contact, we populated both sides of that inlet. We were wiped out to 13 people. There were thousands of us. We populated from Indian River down past Port Atkins. There were so many of us. We got wiped out to 13 people. We're coming back again. We the Tsleil people. A lot of our meals were taken from that water. If a spill happens, it's going to affect all the way to Prince Rupert. 100 years from now, there's still going to be bitumen on the bottom of the inlet. I remember once they said to us, we're going to move the Indians, and we're going to make the world's biggest seaport right here. They're going to put a railway through our reserve. And I told my dad, I said, they're going to move the Indians, Dad. And he said, that's the only time I'll ever take up my gun if they try to move me. I'll die here first, he said. I got very frightened because I was young when they told that to my dad. Now I feel the same way. I'm a grandmother and a great-grandmother. I don't know if I'd say, well, I better pack up and move because there's a spill here, and if I breathe it in, I'm going to get eye infection, ear infection, throat infection, lung infection, cancer, and I might die. Maybe I'd be like my dad, I'd sooner die here than move. My people fought for that inlet since contact, and we're still having to fight it here today. Fighting for that inlet, for that water, that life-sustaining water. It means everything to us. It was our food, it was our spiritual way, it was our canoe races, it was our sports, it was our freeways. We traveled in canoes. I really don't want to see, for all the injustice, for being locked up for the first few years of my life, from 6 years old to 14, and to be hurt how I am from living in jail or concentration camp called residential school. I want to see some justice. I want to feel some justice. I want to know there's some justice out there somewhere. I want to know that people got heart and care if we live or if we die. They said there's a leak on that oil refinery across from us, and they said, we're going to let it blow because we could kill all the Indians across the bay from us. I don't get that kind of mentality. When I was little, my dad said to me, if you cut down a tree, you took a life. If you take a fish out of the water, you took a life. If you shoot a deer, you took a life. So my dad and I can't understand how my ancestors lived through the day when there was so many deaths till we were wiped out to 13 people. they're willing to take the lives of one another and all of us, and even today, I can't believe it to be this far along, and this year, to say that it's more important to put more money in my big billionaire bank account, and I don't care who dies. I don't care if the fish die. When you all gather here, you're not just sitting here talking about human beings and one another and this beautiful inlet. We have to talk on behalf of the fish. They can't talk. They can't say, don't put then bring them big ships in here, because they're going to have a dump and then we're all going to die. We can't say that to the beaver and the deer and the bear, all the ones who use that water. They can't say no. The trees can't say no to it. So when we come here and we gather like this, we're talking for them too. We need to be their voice. And we just need to, first time I ever talked about this, I said, it's time to warrior up. It's time to say no. And my chief, Justin George, he said he's going to put up t-shirts on warrior up, and on the back, Ta'aseh. We need to speak up if we want to help out the inlet, help out the people who live. I mean, even when I look out and I see across the water, I see the yachts and boats coming from the Deep Cove Marina, and I think that's not going to be happening anymore. These billionaires aren't going to say to us, well, if you stay here and you keep breathing in all these poisons, you might die, so here's like $2 million, go find some land and live there. Here's money for a big house. They're not going to say that to us. So it's time to warrior up and stop them right now. And because this is a women's organization in this conference, I'd like to cease with her drum to come help me sing Women's Warrior Song.